In the today's class, we will consider the fundamentals of alternating current. It is simply called as AC. AC means alternating current. So what is the meaning of AC? What are the major properties of AC? And other things we will consider in the today's class. So alternating current or AC is a current that varies as a function of time. Okay, if AC is passing through the circuit or through a conductor, then direction of that current and magnitude of that current varies with time. Okay, so magnitude and direction of AC changes continuously. Such current is called as alternating current. Okay, and this is having certain properties such as frequency, amplitude, time period. Okay, so different properties are well defined for this alternating current. And usually alternating current is represented diagrammatically using the sinusoidal waveform, or mathematically you can represent this alternating current as a sinusoidal function as of time. Okay, so because we know that the alternating current varies with time, as the time changes, the direction and magnitude of alternating current changes. The magnitude and direction of current changes as a periodic function of time. Okay, it will not change randomly, but periodically the magnitude and the direction of current changes. Okay, and this type of current is basically defined or called as alternating current. Okay, therefore the variation of current has repeating specific well-defined cycles during regular interval of time. So after certain time, the same shape of the sinusoidal wave will reappear. Otherwise, the direction and magnitude of current repeats again and again periodically. Okay. In a well-defined cycle, the alternating current will change its direction and magnitude. Okay, that is very important property of alternating current. The alternating current has two half cycles, namely positive and negative half cycles, which may be represented in terms of the direction of current. Okay, once you represent this AC in the form of sine wave, then you will come to understand what is exactly positive and a negative half cycle. I have told you that the direction of alternating current changes with the time. Once it is going in positive direction, and after certain interval of time, the direction of AC changes. It becomes in the negative direction. Otherwise, if you take a conductor which is carrying the current from left to right, for a certain interval of time, current will flow from left to right. After certain time, the current will reverse its direction. Now current start to flow from right to left direction. And that is how the direction and magnitude are going to change with time. Okay. So the direction of current is given as a positive half cycle and negative half cycle. Okay. In a complete cycle, you can find two half cycles. One half cycle is called as positive half cycle, and another half cycle is called as negative half cycle. We'll come to know that. So finally, what you can understand about this alternating current? Alternating current is the rate of flow of charges where direction and magnitude of current changes periodically. Okay, how to define alternating current? Alternating current or AC is the rate of flow of charges where direction and magnitude of current changes periodically. That is called as alternating current. Then mathematically, how you can represent this alternating current and how you can represent it diagrammatically, how you can visualize this alternating current, that we will consider. So for the analysis of AC circuit, we consider alternating current which varies sinusoidally with time. So it is considered to be a sinusoidal wave. Mathematically, we can represent the sinusoidal alternating current and alternating voltage as I equal to I naught sine omega t, V is equal to V naught sine omega t. Remember, both current and voltage are going to vary with time, because we know that current and voltage are directly proportional. As voltage increases, current also increases. Because of that, the current and voltage varies with time together. Okay. So here the instantaneous current I, the current I at any time t, at a given time t, is given by I naught into sine omega t. What is this I naught? I naught is called as the maximum current or peak current of the alternating cycle, alternating current cycle. Similarly, V naught is called as the peak voltage of the alternating current. Okay, peak voltage of AC. Because voltage will reach maximum and then it changes its direction, and also its magnitude will change after certain interval of time. So it will reach certain maximum value, and that maximum value is observed for a short interval of time or for a short time, and after that the current will decrease, and again it goes to the negative direction in the opposite direction, and it reaches the maximum there, then it will change the direction again. Okay, so in one cycle, the alternating current will reach its maximum value twice, one in positive direction and one time in the negative direction. Here, omega is called as angular frequency of AC because AC is represented as a sine wave, or it is represented as a cycle. Okay, cycle means it is a motion which repeats after regular interval of time. One cycle or one wave represents one cycle. In 1 second, how many number of such waves are observed for a given AC? That represents the frequency of AC. Okay, and here omega is angular frequency of AC because we have sine of omega t, sine of some angle you should get. That is the reason why instead of frequency we take care of the angular frequency, and that angular frequency omega is basically equal to 2 pi f, where f is the number of alternating cycles of AC observed per second. In 1 second, how many number of waves are observed in a conductor? Okay, waves means alternating current flow. Then how to represent it graphically? The graphical representation of sinusoidal alternating current or voltage, that can be represented in this particular figure. So this is a sinusoidal waveform. Suppose you plot the graph of current versus time. So here graph of current versus time is plotted here. The current will increase initially and it reaches the maximum here in the positive direction. Then it falls, it starts to decrease, and it will become 0 and it goes in negative direction. And it reaches the maximum peak, that is peak value in the negative direction at a certain time, and then it starts to change its direction, and again it becomes 0. This is called as one complete cycle of AC. And this one complete cycle of AC is having one positive half cycle and another negative half cycle. Okay, so this part of the sinusoidal wave is called as positive half cycle, where a half wave is observed. This part of the cycle is called as negative half cycle, where direction of current is in the opposite direction. Since the horizontal axis is time axis, the time taken to complete one cycle is called as the time period of AC t, and reciprocal of the time period is called as the frequency of AC. Time taken to complete one cycle is called as time period of AC. What do you mean by time period? Here the current should increase in one direction, then it should change its direction and it takes the peak value in the opposite direction, at the opposite direction, then again it comes to 0. So this is how one cycle is defined. The time taken to complete one cycle of AC is called as time period of AC. And here one half cycle gets completed at the time equal to capital T by 2, where capital T is time period of AC. Then 1/4 of the cycle, that is peak values observed at the time T by 4. and in the opposite direction, the same peak value is observed at the time 3t/4, provided the phase of the AC is 0. What do you mean by phase? We'll come to that later. In figure, capital T represents the time period of AC, during which it completes one cycle containing one positive half cycle and one negative half cycle. So one cycle consists of one positive half cycle and one negative half cycle. So what you can observe is that AC attains the peak values twice in a cycle, but in the opposite direction. Here you can observe the peak current I0 at a certain time, and same I0 is observed in the opposite direction. So in one cycle, the peak current or peak values are observed twice in a cycle. Okay, in one cycle of AC, you can observe the peak values twice. Okay. So then what do you mean by average value of alternating current during one half cycle? And that is given by the formula I average equal to 2 I0 by pi. In one half cycle, you have to take care of the average value. If you take the average value over complete half cycle, the positive half cycle will give you positive value of current. The negative half cycle gives you the negative current. Therefore, the overall average will become 0 if you take care of one complete cycle. That is the reason why the average value of AC is taken over one half cycle. That is the reason why one half cycle is considered to get the average value of AC. Already you have studied this in pre-university level, just a formula is given to you, okay, in this particular slide. So average value of AC, I average, is related to peak current by I average equal to 2 I0 by pi. Okay, if you calculate value of 2 by pi, you will get 0.637 I0. The average value of AC is usually the 63% of the peak current, okay, where I0 is the peak current. Similarly, the sinusoidal alternating voltage has the average value V average equal to 0.637 V0, or it is given by 2 V0 by pi. So just to remember, the average value of AC taken over one half cycle is 63% of the peak current, because you know that current will not be constant. It is going to vary. It is going to vary with respect to its direction and with respect to its magnitude also. Okay, make constant I0 current flow agudilla. The maximum current will not flow for long time. Only very short interval of time the maximum current is observed. After that, current will decrease on both sides. Because of that, if you take the average value of AC over a certain interval of time, you will get the average value is equal to 63% of its peak value. Okay. The average value of alternating current and voltage over a complete cycle is 0, because it has one positive half cycle and one negative. If you take the average value of AC over a complete cycle, that average value is going to be 0. But we are going to take the average value over one half cycle, that is going to be finite. Okay, so that is about the average value of AC. Next, you will take root mean square value of AC, or it is called as effective value of alternating current. So for the analysis and for the calculation purpose, always you will take root mean square value of the AC. We know, you already know it. Root mean square value means you have to take the square root of the mean value of squares of the instantaneous values of alternating current over one complete cycle you have to take. Okay, and the expression for RMS value of AC is given by IRMS equal to I0 by root 2, and that is going to be 0.707 I0. So root mean square value of AC is equal to 70% of the maximum value. Okay, 70% of I0. Similarly, the alternating voltage has the RMS value VRMS equal to V0 by root 2. Okay, so why this RMS value is taken as an effective value? Because If you pass the DC current in a particular resistor for a certain amount of time, definitely it will produce some amount of heat. If you pass the AC alternating current in the same resistor for the same interval of time, then it will show same amount of heat which is equal to the RMS value of AC. Okay, so take care of two conductors, okay, two resistors, let us take. In one resistor DC is passing, in the other resistor AC is passing. Okay, let us take the DC is having the magnitude 1 ampere. Let us take 1 ampere DC is passing through one resistor. 1 ampere of IRMS, the RMS value of AC is 1 ampere. So such AC is passing through the second resistor. Then pass the DC and AC for 5 minutes. Remember, these two resistors are identical. And it is observed that in these resistors, you will get same amount of heat. That means the RMS value of AC, which is equal to the value of DC, then it will produce the same amount of heat. That means the peak value of AC will not be the effective value of alternating current. Instead of that, the RMS value of AC is effective value of the alternating current. Therefore, the effective value or RMS value of AC is equivalent to that steady current or DC direct current, which when passed through a resistance for a certain time produces the same amount of heat as that of the alternating current when passed through the same resistor for the same time. Okay, so simple example is take two resistors. In one resistor you pass certain amount of DC for 5 minutes. In the second resistor you pass the AC, which is having the RMS value equal to this DC. Then you will observe that after 5 minutes you will get same amount of heat in the both the resistors. That means the effective value of DC is exactly equal to the effective value of AC, where RMS value of AC is going to be the equivalent current corresponding to the DC. Therefore, the RMS value of AC is taken for all the practical measurements. In the laboratory, if you are going to measure the AC, the meter will show the value of RMS, that is RMS value of that alternating current. It will not show the peak current or it will not show the average current. It shows the RMS value. In the laboratory, whatever the meters, whether it is analog meter or digital meter, all meters in the laboratory are going to show the RMS value of AC. You remember this properly. That's why for the analysis and for the practical measurements, we will take care of only RMS value of AC. You remember this point properly. The next point we'll consider, what do you mean by phase of alternating current? Okay, the AC has its own phase. Phase means it is representing the value of AC at t is equal to 0, or it gives you the shape of the sinusoidal AC represented graphically. Basically, the alternating current and its variation with time can also be represented as I is equal to I naught into sine of omega t plus alpha, where this alpha is called as phase angle. So at t is equal to 0, what is the value of current? That represents the phase of that current. So whether that phase is having the non-zero value at t is equal to 0, then we say that the phase of that AC equal to alpha. Okay, so phase is represented in terms of the angle alpha, and here I naught is peak current, omega t is called as phase, plus alpha, that is omega t plus alpha is called as phase of that alternating current. If alpha is 0, then phase of the AC current is omega t. So remember, this sine of this particular angle is called as the phase. This angle is called as phase. That is called as phase of alternating current. And here alpha is sometimes called as phase angle. Okay, by how much angle it is leading the current which is equal to 0 at t equal to 0. Okay, so just to remember this, the shape of the sinusoidal wave representing AC depends on the value of alpha. If alpha equal to 0, the current I takes the value 0 when t equal to 0. Okay, when AC is represented in the form of sinusoidal wave, then value of alpha decides the shape of the sine wave. If alpha is 0, then current takes the 0 value at t equal to 0. If alpha is non-zero, then current will take certain finite value when t equal to 0. That means phase of the current is depending on the value of alpha. Okay. If this omega t plus alpha is the same for two signals, then we say that two AC signals are in phase. That means they are having the same phase angle. Then they are said to be in phase. If the difference between phase angle is 90 degree, then we say that there is a phase difference of 90 degree between those two AC signals. So that phase angle decides the phase difference between two signals. You can compare the two signals based on the phase angle. That phase represents the shape of the sinusoidal wave, which is representing the alternating current. So let us take this case. If alpha equal to pi by 2, then what happens? I becomes equal to I naught, because it becomes sine of omega t plus alpha. At a t equal to 0, you will get sine of pi by 2, because alpha is pi by 2, so in the second case. Then I will take the maximum value at t equal to 0. Therefore, with respect to time axis, the shape of the wave depends on alpha. Okay, two cases you can consider. At alpha equal to 0, if alpha equal to 0, current is 0 at t equal to 0. When alpha equal to pi by 2, then current will become I naught. I becomes equal to I naught when t equal to 0. Therefore, the shape of the sine wave is different with respect to the time axis. Okay, and here, if two signals are considered with alpha equal to 0 and alpha equal to pi by 2, then we say that there is a phase difference of pi by 2 between these two signals. Okay, and you can observe here the values of alpha does not affect the average values or RMS value of AC. You have to remember, alpha does not appear in the calculation of IRMS or I average, but it only represents the value of current at t is equal to 0. Okay, but it will not affect the cycle of AC. Okay, so that you have to be remembered properly. That is about the phase of the current. Then in this particular semester, we are going to study the AC circuits using the J operator method. Okay, so J operator method is basically the complex number operator method. J is a complex number. In mathematics, you might have come across the I. I means it is a complex number. What is the value of I? I is equal to square root of -1. You can represent the complex number as Z is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta. That is one complex number. Or Z equal to X plus IY. That is a complex number. So here I is equal to square root of -1. And in this particular paper, what we consider, we instead of I will take J. J is resembled to I. J equal to square root of -1. And this method of discussing the AC circuit using complex number representation is called as J operator method. And here we'll consider this complex number J as an operator, okay, which represents the phase of AC. Phase of AC is represented by means of J operator. The analysis of AC circuit becomes simple if complex number representation is used. Okay, how it becomes simple, we'll see. We know that the complex number is a combination of real and imaginary quantity. What is complex number? Let us discuss. First, the complex number is a combination of real and imaginary quantity, and it is represented as general complex number is represented as Z is equal to X plus JY, where J is a imaginary part that represents the imaginary part, and here X is the imaginary part, J is the, sorry, Y is the imaginary part. X is real part, Y is imaginary part. Here x is real part and y is the imaginary part. What is value of j? J is equal to square root of -1. That is actually the complex number. Okay. So here, this is the complex number representation. This complex number can be represented in a complex number plane, and that complex number plane is also called as Argand diagram. ARGAND diagram. Argand diagram. Okay. So that Argand diagram or complex plane consisting of two-dimensional plane. One axis is real axis and the perpendicular axis is considered to be imaginary axis. So in Cartesian coordinate system, what you can do, you can consider one x-axis and one y-axis. They are perpendicular to one another. In complex plane, what we consider, we'll consider one horizontal real axis. X-axis is replaced by a real axis that represents the real values. Vertical axis is represented as an imaginary axis. I will show you in diagram. So this complex plane is created by extending one-dimensional real number line into two-dimensional complex plane, such that the real number lies on the horizontal axis and imaginary number lies on the vertical axis as a multiples of j. Because in complex number you will get x plus jy. So j is considered to be operator, or in terms of multiples of j, you can represent the imaginary part of the complex number. So the complex number is defined by a point whose projection on the horizontal and vertical axis gives the real and imaginary part of the complex number. So just I will show you the diagram here. So let us take the value of z is equal to x plus jy. Then it is represented by means of a point P. So horizontal axis is real axis, vertical axis is imaginary axis. Z is represented by a point P. So this point P has the projection on real axis whose length is x, and it has the projection on imaginary axis whose length is y. So here x is the real part, y is the imaginary part. So this is indicating the point in the complex plane by considering the real number along horizontal axis and imaginary number along vertical axis. That's all. New Cartesian coordinate system you represent x, y and kotre. Suppose a point P is having the coordinate x, y and kotre. By choosing the length x along x-axis, by choosing the height y along y-axis, you can indicate the point. So here z is indicated by means of a point whose coordinates are x and y. That's all. Where x is the real part, y is the imaginary part of the complex number. Here horizontal axis is called as real axis, vertical axis is called as imaginary axis, and this plane is called as complex plane. Okay, remember this. X ಮತ್ತು y ಅಂತ ಕರೆಯುವುದಿಲ್ಲ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ. Here we'll call horizontal axis as real axis, vertical axis as imaginary axis. That's all. Okay. And what is the magnitude of this z? That is given by square root of x square plus y square. So if you take the length of this vector, okay, it is called as phasor. Okay, this vector is called as phasor. The length of this vector is given by the Pythagoras theorem. The value of z or magnitude of z is nothing but the length of the vector, which is equal to square root of x square plus y square. So just to apply the Pythagoras theorem, this is a right angle triangle. So this is z square is equal to x square plus y square. Otherwise z is equal to square root of x square plus y square. Then what is the angle made by this vector with respect to real axis? That is given by, if this is angle theta, then tan theta is given by opposite by adjacent. What is the opposite value? It is y, adjacent is x. Therefore theta will be equal to tan inverse of y by x. Okay, so y is the imaginary part, x is the real part. Okay, and it is called as amplitude in the complex number discussion, and this is called as magnitude of complex number. That is how you can represent this in graphical complex plane, graphically in the complex plane. So value of theta, that is representing the angle made by the vector with respect to real axis, and that is given by theta equal to tan inverse of y by x. That is how we can represent the complex number in a complex plane. Next, consider two complex numbers such that one has only real part. Z1 is a complex number which has only real part. The another complex number has only imaginary part, Z2. Z2 is having only imaginary part. Z1 is having only real part. Obviously, the complex number with real part will have the vector along real axis because it has only real part. That's why it is represented along the real axis. This is x, Z1. It is having only real part. Whereas Z2 is having only imaginary part, that is lying along the imaginary axis. Therefore, what is the angle between this Z1 and Z2? That is exactly equal to 90 degree. You observe here. Okay. So what we have considered here, we have considered Z1. Z1 is having only real part, and we have taken the complex number Z1 is equal to X, and Z2 is having only imaginary part, that is equal to JY. Okay, where Y is the imaginary part of that complex number. So according to the representation in complex plane, Z1 will appear along real axis, Z2 will appear along the imaginary axis. Then what is the phase angle between them? The angle between Z1 and Z2 is equal to pi by 2. Okay, so therefore, if you take positive J with respect to vector, then it is having the 90 degree angle with respect to real axis. That is how this J is considered to be the operator. If you multiply a number with a complex number J, then it will shift the vector from the real axis to imaginary axis. The multiplication of J, or if you operate the number by J, the number which is initially in the real axis will shift to the imaginary axis because you will get Jy. If you remove this J, what will happen? Z2 will also appear along real axis. Okay, and that is how J is considered to be an operator, which gives what which introduces 90 degree phase difference with respect to the real axis. Let us take another vector Z3, which is having the value minus J1. Then it is represented along negative imaginary axis. This is positive imaginary axis. This is negative imaginary axis. Then which will lie along the negative imaginary axis with the phase difference of minus pi by 2 with Z1 as in figure. So with respect to Z1, Z3 has the phase difference of minus 90 degree. So minus J represents minus pi by 2 phase difference, plus J represents plus pi by 2 phase difference. So it is an operator when you multiply or when you operate this J on a real number, then it will introduce the phase difference of 90 degree with respect to the real axis. Okay, that is how we can understand the concept of J. So we'll stop here. We'll consider the different circuits and we'll try to represent the voltage and current in terms of J operator method in the next